Hi everyone, it's Professor Fernandez here, giving you the spiel on how to spot if the news that you are about to use or the sources that you're using are true or not, whether it is satire, whether it is just completely wrong information. One of the reasons why I'm doing that is that your research paper is coming around the corner, and with each lesson that we have, I try to introduce a skill that you're going to use to do your research paper, um, or a strategy to do some searching. And in this particular part of the module, we're talking about fake news and what you can believe and what you cannot believe, because the activity you'll have after this little part of the module, I'm literally going to let you loose on the internet. And I want to make sure that you understand what is true, what isn't true, so that way you get correct sources and good information for the activity that you're doing, but also for the research paper that's coming up. So let's talk a little bit about this particular flyer here. You're going to have two flyers in the part of the module. You're going to have the How to Spot Fake News module handout, and you're going to have the Kapow handout. And I want to go over this with you guys, just to kind of have a conversation with you guys. So whenever you're out and about on the internet looking at things, clicking on things from Twitter or from Facebook or whatever social media you are watching or consuming, it's really easy to get wrapped up in the sensationalism of it. Um, One of the things that was interesting during Hurricane Harvey is that there was a lot of rumors and a lot of things happening at the same time. It was very easy to get caught up in the emotion of Hurricane Harvey and whether streets were washed out or buildings were flooded, whether um, the whole neighborhood was flooded or it was just you. There was lots of chaos, and so some of that information you couldn't believe. So this is when you really want to take a very critical eye in the information that you are consuming. You want to consider the source. You want to understand who is putting this information out and if there's a reason they're putting the information out. If it's a credible news source, they're putting out the information because um, they are informing the public. But you want to consider, because there are some sources out there that are satirical sources, some sources that are out there and they're put together um, by donated information. And we'll take a look at one of those wonderful websites that you've probably used before. So you want to consider the source. You want to check out who the author is. You could Google search the author. Usually, if it's a good news source, you can click on the author's name and they will bring up other pieces that they have written before. You want to check out the date. If this is something that ran a year ago, and it's just spreading like wildfire. This happens a lot whenever there's the death of a celebrity that everyone loves, and then someone posts it and says, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe that they're dead." Okay, they've been dead for 5 years, so check the date that something has run. Check your biases too. You also don't want to just grab news that just agrees with your opinion. You want to grab news that disagrees with your opinion, especially with the activity that we have coming up in the research paper that you'll be doing later, because you want to get different viewpoints. You're gonna be arguing one point over another, so you want to know what the counter argument is, so that way you can argue against the counter argument. And more on that whenever we get to the argument essay that we're going to do. You want to read beyond the headlines. It's really easy to read a headline, think you got the story, and move on with your life. That's how rumors get started. What is the actual whole story? How are they supporting what is being said here? Are they using sources? Are they using credible sources? Um, are they using anonymous sources? And what does that do with the credibility of what you're trying to use? Is what you are looking at a joke? And we'll look at a couple examples here in a minute on how you can kind of tell it's a joke. Some things are just too good to be true. It's kind of interesting, is it not? And you want to ask the experts. We have a wonderful librarian. Her name is Mika Mitchell, and you've probably have made her acquaintance. There's a video of her in D2L. She will officially introduce herself very, very soon. And it's really good to ask either me or the librarian if what is you're considering um, a viable source for your paper is an actual viable source. So I want to go through this wonderful thing, and this is something that's put together by our librarians. And I'm going to go through it rather quickly. I'm pretty sure that whenever the librarian talks about research, she'll probably bring this up. But I wanted this in front of your eyes because there's a way to measure whether something is a viable source or not. And the librarians have put together this handout, and it's called CAPOW. Yes, it's kind of interesting, right? Because you're expecting superheroes and Marvel Comics or DC Comics using stuff like Kapow, like old school Batman. But Kapow is um, actually puts the first letter of all these words to create this word, so you can remember what to look for when you are looking for or looking at a piece that you may want to look. Currency essentially is that publication date. When was it last published? Is the information timely? Is it valid for what you need? You want to look at who wrote it, the authorship. Who wrote this content? Is it an individual person? Does that person work for the organization, or is this like somebody's personal blog? I can tell you right now, personal blogs, probably not a good source for you to use. You want to understand the purpose of the content. Is it to inform, to entertain, or to promote? Does it seem credible? How do you know? Objectivity. Is the content biased? Does it lean one way or the other? There are lots of things that lean left or lean right. If you have something from a news source that leans one way or the other, find something on the other side of the coin to balance out the information. This is especially true when we start looking at stuff like Adnan Syed and Heyman Lee. And you want to look at the writing style. Is it a Do they have a lot of list of sources, or they're using loaded language? Is the content presented appropriate to the level of academic research paper? May happen, may not happen. It's something to definitely look at. What I want to go through with you guys here is that I want to go through some examples here of what is a good source or not a good source. You may, when you do some of your Google searches or you do um, web searches, whether it's Google or through another search engine, you may have come across some things that were published in, say, like a WordPress site, a blogger site, or even Medium. This is a article, or actually it's not an article, it's an opinion piece on the site Medium, but the publication is The Establishment. And so if you're looking at this, you could look at it and read through things um, and whatnot. I can tell you right now, this looks like an opinion piece. You're going to want to do something um, like a home situation here. And you're going to want to kind of see how this organization is, whether they publish news or publish um, interesting stuff. Apparently they do. So, it may not be a good news source. It may not be a good source for you. Here's another one. This is Huff Post, and there's a couple of things people have said about Huff Post and BuzzFeed as far as news sources. If they're doing a listicle, probably not a good news source. This is actually a good news source. This is about the California fires. How I know it's a good news source is that though it is on the Huff Post website, as we can see, I can see that the writer is actually from Reuters, which is a reputable news organization. And so I can be very certain that this is good and credible news. At least this article is good and credible on this site. So that's how I know. Just because Reuters is a good news service. We could look up Heather Somerville and see what else she has written, and that's how we can tell if what she has written is true or not. Let's look at another one. Here's an interesting one. Horrifying doll sitting on neighbor's porch, whether it's Halloween or not. This is a satire site called The Onion. You've probably heard of it. You probably not have heard of it, or you've probably read something that they wrote. They write very dangerously close or very dangerously newsy headlines, and a lot of people have gotten in trouble as far as sharing the stories from the site, thinking that they're true. And remember when I said one of the headnotes said go beyond the headline? That's what you want to do. And The Onion is one of those places that they have really great headlines sometimes, and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is happening. But if you click on it, you know it's a satire. Obviously, this is not news. This is them being funny. That is a creepy doll. I do. I do agree with that. But this isn't news, right? And we know that. But how about something like this? We have the latest news of the Harvey Weinstein thing. So this is definitely going to have some clicks because Harvey Weinstein's name is in the headline. But this could easily be construed as an actual story that someone writes about another man and the misconduct of things, right? But this is indeed on The Onion. um, and it is not news, yet it looks like it could be news. So we have sources that we have ways to see if it's true or not, or at least make us question it. First of all, we know The Onion, it's not true. But in case you don't know about this publication, let's look to see if we see a name, and we see no name. So there is no name here on who wrote it. So definitely should ring up bells. How about that they have this kind of quotation in the story? Usually doesn't happen. So I'm gonna say this is not a true news site. And so you know that this isn't viable information. Let's look at another site here, because you guys love to use Wikipedia. Um, and I don't blame you. If you want really quick information, kind of an overview of things, it's really, really easy to get, and it's just grab quick information and roll with it. And sometimes the information's really good. The issue here, and I'm just going to click on a topic here. The issue with Wikipedia here is that it is an open source site, meaning that anyone can change information or add information. It could be a person, any average Joe or Jane on the street, but it also can be somebody who has a PhD on the topic. So that is the pluses and minuses of Wikipedia. I'm going to say do not use any information from Wikipedia because it is an open source, and there is no guarantee that the information that the person is putting on there is factual, or that the person who is putting factual information on there is actually an expert in their field. I would suggest not using Wikipedia at all. And I know it's kind of hard because it'd be really easy to put Adnan's name here and get a really quick kind of like synopsis of him and his life and what's going on and the whole aftermath of everything and whatnot. And that is very appealing. Don't use it, because anybody could have put information about Adnan in there. Anybody could have put information about Heyman Lee. So you don't want to really use this information. So that's my quick or quickish synopsis on what is true, what isn't true. Again, you're going to use these skills that you've just heard about and just learned in an activity very, very soon, right after this part of the module. And I wanted you guys to have this activity so that you are ready to do the next one. All right, guys? I will see you soon. Bye.